What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Lockie, and today I'm going to be showing you all the ultimate guide to the 2011 to 2014 Subaru WRX and STi wheel fitment. Ooh. Now, before we get started, if you're new here, my name is Lockie and I make videos on my Subaru WRX amongst other things. And so it would mean the world to me if you would consider subscribing. You can do lots of other things also to help me out, like liking and commenting. That also helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm. You can also follow my Instagram right here, 00lock. That's probably the best way to message me and get in contact with me besides the YouTube comment section down below. Now, if you stay to the end of the video, you'll be able to see that I'm actually getting some new tires tomorrow. So I thought it would be a great idea to compare the fitment that I currently have now to the fitment that I'm getting tomorrow with some new tires. So hopefully that should be able to help you decide on what wheel and tires and fitment that you would like for your WRX, and hopefully that you can learn something along the way. Alrighty guys, so the three main categories we're going to be talking about today are wheels, tires, and suspension. We're also going to be touching on a bit of body modifications, such as rolling of the inner guards to achieve your fitment. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll be showing you a comparison between the fitment that I have now versus the fitment that I will be getting tomorrow when I buy new tires. So let's get started on the wheels. Okay. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to be comparing the stock WRX wheel to my WRX STi. The first thing that you need to consider is the diameter of the wheel. Now, the stock WRX wheels are 17 inch in diameter, so from top to bottom. The second thing you need to consider is, of course, the width of the wheel. The stock WRX wheel is 8 inches wide. The third thing you need to consider is the offset, and the offset of the stock WRX wheel is plus 55 millimeters. The fourth thing that you need to consider when you're purchasing wheels for your WRX is that the WRX takes a PCD of 5x100, whereas the STi will take a PCD of 5x114.3. So this means ultimately, if you buy 5x100 wheels, they are not going to fit your STi, so make sure you get that one right. And lastly but not least, the fifth thing you need to consider is your brake clearance. Now, some wheels and their spoke design matched with their offset do not clear big brakes, such as Brembos that are on the STIs or other big brake kits. So therefore, you need to make sure and follow up with the manufacturer of the wheel that your design will clear your big brakes if you so happen to have them. So the type of fitment that I have chosen to go for is the flush fitment. Something that fills out the guards well and something that's going to be functional from day-to-day driving. The diameter of the wheel that I've chosen is an 18-inch wheel. Now, this is only 1 extra inch up from the stock wheel. However, this does give you lots of options within the wheel world. Most wheels are about 18 inches. It seems to be the general consensus, so I would highly recommend an 18-inch wheel. Now, for the width of the wheel, you do have a bit of room to play here. Most people like to go for between a 9 and a 10-inch wheel. I would highly recommend you go a 9.5-inch wheel, as this sets you up really nicely for your tire options later on. Now, the third thing to consider is the offset of your wheel. Now, within the Subaru WRX world, the general consensus is that the perfect fitment is about a plus 38 offset. This doesn't mean that you can't achieve your fitment without having a plus 38 offset, as this does limit your wheels. So I would recommend you go between a plus 30 and a plus 40 offset. So guys, to sum it up for your wheel choice, I would highly recommend you go for an 18-inch wheel with a 9.5 width and a plus 38 offset. If you have a WRX, you should go for a 5x100 PCD And if you have an STi, you should use a 5x114.3 PCD. And of course, I would highly recommend that you check with the manufacturer if the wheels are going to fit with the big brake kit if you so happen to have one. Next up on our list are tires. Now there are a few looks. The first look is to have an oversized look. The second is to be flushed. The third is to have a stretched look. And the fourth is to have a stanced look. Now, obviously with my setup, I've gone for a flush look. So just before we get into that, I wanted to show you what the letters on the tires mean so you can choose and you can know what you're putting on your vehicle. Okay, so here we have the stock WRX wheel and tire, and these are currently in a 235 by 45 R17. Well, 235 is the length of the tire across the width of the wheel in millimeters. So it's 235 millimeters wide. The 45 is the tire profile. Now this is a ratio between the diameter of the wheel and the width of your tire. So it's 235 by 45. And last but not least, the R17 is the diameter of the wheel. Okay, so now you're wondering what type of tire will fit the wheel that I've chosen. Well, that's a great question. So I'm going to chuck a little graphic up on the screen right now, so feel free to pause it and have a look at the different widths and diameters compared to the wheel. Okay, so as you can see here, that with my 10-inch wheel, I am running a 265 tire. The tire profile is a 35 and it's an 18-inch wheel. All right, now it's time to show you a very, very useful website that you should be using when you're choosing your wheel and your tire specifications. All right guys, so the website I wanted to show you is called willtheyfit.com. Now, this is an exceptional website because you can compare your existing wheel and tire setup to your new setup. And with a click of a button, it's going to calculate all your results and give you a beautiful little graphic to show you what the difference between your existing and your new wheel and tire setup is. So now we're going to do a bit of a comparison between our existing WRX wheel fitment and our new flush wheel fitment. So our existing is a 235 with a profile of 45 on a 17-inch diameter. The wheel width is of course an 8-inch and the offset is 55. Our new setup is going to be a 265 with a profile of 35 and a diameter of 18. And of course, our wheel width is going to be a 9.5 with an offset of 38. Now keep in mind that the offset of my wheels is pretty much identical to this, except for my width is a 10-inch, so we're still just within the specifications, but it's not going to make a difference compared to our results. So now we click calculate, and as you can see, the purple box here, it states that the inner rim is going to be 2 millimeters closer to the suspension strut, and the outer rim will poke out about 36.1 millimeters more than before. So we can see from this graphic right here that our wheel and our tire is very flush. We don't have any much of a gap between the suspension strut here, and we've got the extra poke. Of course, in the results table here, it will show you what your speedo error is. So with this setup, you're going to only have a 0.09% speedo error. So next to nothing. When you're reading 60 miles per hour, it's going to be actually achieving 60.06 miles per hour. So in my opinion, this is the perfect fitment for our WRX and our STIs. These 265 by 35 on an 18-inch wheel, a 9.5 diameter with a 38 offset. But there's just one last thing we need to dial in to have functionality. All right guys, so the final thing we need to consider when achieving a nice and beautiful flush fitment for our WRX and STIs is of course suspension. Now there are different types of suspension. There are lowering springs, coilovers and air suspension, but for the purpose of this video, I would highly recommend that you have either coilovers or air suspension that has camber adjustment. Now for the front of our vehicles, we do require just a little bit of camber adjustment. I would recommend between -1.5 and -2.5 degrees of camber. Personally myself, I'm running -2.2 degrees camber in the front and I have absolutely zero issues with rubbing or scrubbing. Unfortunately, in the rear, it's not the same. Our vehicles do not allow camber adjustment, so therefore we either have to resort to rolling our guards or purchasing some aftermarket lower control arms that allow us to have that camber adjustment. Personally myself, I do not have lower control arms, and I have rolled the inners of my rear guards. I would highly recommend that you do roll the inners of your rear guards, because with our vehicles we do have a little tab that folds in and it's about 1 inch long. So you will be required to heat that up with a heat gun and roll that tab back so it's nice and flush with the wheel arches. Let me show you. So if you can imagine that my finger is the guard here, inside it pokes out like that. So we do require to heat it up and fold it in all the way so it's nice and flush. The car naturally will camber down over the tires and we will not have any rubbing and scrubbing issues. Alrighty guys, I'm going to wrap it up here pretty shortly, but if you stick around after this clip, you'll be able to see a comparison between my new wheel and tire setup. I am getting my tires changed tomorrow. We're going down to a 245/40 profile instead of the 265/35 profile. So this is going to give it a little bit more of a stretched look. It's nothing too crazy, but it's a good comparison for you guys if you do not want to have such a thick and expensive tire. Obviously the 245s are a lot cheaper, hence why I am getting them. But I hope you found that informative. Please leave me a bit of feedback in the comment section below. Let me know what you think the perfect fitment is for our generation of WRX and STIs. And I hope to see you in the next video. Please consider subscribing. My name is Lockie. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next video.
Alright boys, this is the last time you're going to see some big boy fitment going from the 265 down to the 245s. Alright boys, we've just come back from getting the tyres done. So shout out to Sean from Bridgestone. Thanks mate for looking after me every time. We've swapped out the 265/35s for some 245/40s. So have a look at this. You can see the fitment now with the 245s, obviously much further in. We've got a little bit of stretch on the tire there, but overall not too bad, nothing too crazy. You can still see with the camber there. I must say it's not too bad, but it's definitely not perfect fitment. So thanks for watching boys, and hopefully you learned something. Cheers.